she was scary. Like I told her to her face, I was like, you're like literally like a scary manager. You have manager eyes. I'm afraid of you.
You're like, I would not work for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Our podcast is about you and your journey in music and how you got to where you are now.
Love it.
Awesome. Well, first off, tell me where were you born and raised?
I was born and raised in Nova Scotia, which is like a small province on the east coast of Canada. Nobody really knows what it is, but that's where I was born and raised in Halifax. I mean, like that's the capital of that province. So,
What was it like? What was it like there? You said east?
Yeah, it's East Coast. So like
Snowy?
Over near Maine and New York, it's like that area kind of.
Okay.
Those are two closest states, I think. But yeah, it was pretty it was fun growing up there. I mean, I didn't really know anything else. I never got to go on a plane or anything until I was like 10 or 11 or something. So it was kind of like that was all that I knew. I mean, I had lots of friends there, and it's a good place to grow up. I mean, there's no like violence or anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really that type of place. It's very rural, very just kind of country vibes. You go play in the field, ride bikes with your friends until the street lights come on, and you go home. You just go to your friend's house, knock on the door, and see if they're home. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Were there like, did you go check out music anywhere? Were there like venues to play or?
That's like in that city, people don't really stop on tours there. Like, I mean, the first show I ever saw was Hilary Duff. She came there when I was 5.
Really?
I was like, oh my goodness, like Lizzie McGuire's coming here. No way.
That's so
coming
cool.
To Scotia. That's so random. But people, it's a lot of just local music, and not people don't really go there because also the population's kind of small. But
sure.
Hilary Duff, my first concert.
Yeah, Hilary Duff came there. That's huge.
Yeah, that was amazing.
That's
was
really
the very first concert I ever went to, and blew my mind. I was just like, no way, she's actually here, like in front of me. I still have the poster from the concert where she signed them. It's in the back of one of my bookshelves in my mom's house.
That's awesome. So you actually have a signed poster from Hilary Duff. That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, if another band came through, where would they, like a bigger artist, how would you go see them? Would you have to travel quite far?
No. Well, usually they'll travel to Toronto or to Montreal for the shows. Some people do come to Halifax, but not a lot. Like ASAP Ferg came there when I was 15 or something. Mac Miller stopped there, which was really weird and like dope. Very cool.
Yeah.
But from that, I mean, I know Justin Bieber, before he really popped off, there's a music festival that they used to have there called Summer Rush, and I guess he performed at that. And I was like, yeah. So I mean, there's been some people who were there before their stardom, which is kind of cool if you saw them before they broke out.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, you just travel to go to the shows. You just fly to Toronto and you go there for the weekend and then come back. I never did that, but
so it's like a big thing. Like if you're gonna go see a show, it's like, it's not like you can just go down. You can't go downtown and go see whoever, right?
Yeah, not like that at all.
That's cool though. So talk to me about, how'd you get into music?
I mean, music has always kind of been in my blood. One of my older brothers is a musician, and he was a snowboarder, and he did all this stuff. And then when I found out, because he's my stepbrother, but he's so like much older than me. He's just my full brother. So when I found out, they told me that, because I never grew up with him or anything, because he's older, moved out, gone on his way. They were like, you have another older brother, and this is all the stuff they do. So I was like, no way, he's not going on tour in Japan and like being in the Olympics and doing all this stuff. I was like, that's fake. You're lying to me. And then I met him, and I was like, oh my God, like this is real. I could do that. And then I just kind of tried to like follow in his footsteps as much as I could. I mean, obviously doing my own thing, but he really introduced me to music in a sense where nobody in my family is really musical or anything. Not growing up, my parents don't really know that much about music or anything, but my brother, his name's Trevor, he gave me my first MP3 player. He would bring us CDs when he came to visit from New York. It was like my first CD from him, it was like a Fifi Dobson CD, then the Hilary Duff Christmas album, and a Ramones CD, like,
oh, that's rad,
and a Black Eyed Peas CD, one of the first CDs they ever put out. I remember I had those 4, and I would just listen to them on loop and it's a really weird combination of music, but like I loved it because my brother gave it to me. I was like, he knows what he's talking about when he's like showing me
Sure.
songs. He's older
This
than me. And
does he
it,
still perform out at all, or is he still
um,
in the industry at
he,
all?
he kind of does everything, you know. He doesn't snowboard like he snowboards for fun now, but not competitively anymore. So he moved from that, and now he's mostly doing art.
Oh,
He
cool.
designed Gucci, like Gucci Ghost was his thing. So I mean, he's doing a lot of more art-based things now, but he's still making music and doing whatever, you know, keeping creative in all the aspects, and that's kind of what I like to do myself.
Yeah, that's cool. So he was a big inspiration for you. But what was the first thing you did musically? Were you in vocal lessons or
No.
choir or like?
I mean, I did sing in the choir at school. You have music class. I don't know if you have music class in America in school growing up, but you'll have
If
a
you're
music class.
lucky, if you're lucky.
Yeah, so you have a music teacher in elementary school growing up, and you know she'll play guitar and you sing like Puff the Magic Dragon, and then you learn just a little bit about music theory to so that kids learn rhythm, and then you do your Christmas concerts and that stuff at
Yeah.
school. Um, I definitely would listen to CDs on my little jukebox thing in my bedroom, and then I just sing to the music. And you know, it was never like my parents weren't like, "Oh, do you want to do piano lessons or guitar or any of that?" I never did any lessons, but we did get a piano in the house because growing up down the street, an old piano teacher was just giving away one. And my mom was like, "Oh, that's down the road. We'll take it." So then we got a piano in the house, totally out of tune. Like it was out of tune for, I think, the first 6 months that we had it, but we'd play it anyway. So because that was there, I was like, I'm going to learn how to play this. So it came with some little books and stuff. And that's the first instrument that I really tried to teach myself. I'm not amazing at it, but I do know how to play around with it a
Uh-huh.
little bit. So, I mean, that's kind of the first instrument that I started with. And then moving from that, I mean, I did play flute in the school band for
Okay.
2 years. I wanted to play saxophone, but I got scared because when you have to do band tryouts or something where they look at your hands to see if they're big enough to play the instrument. And my hands are
Really?
huge. My hands are giant. I didn't know at the time. So I was like, oh no, like they're gonna tell me I can't play saxophone, so I'll just play flute instead, I guess. So I never got to play the saxophone.
Just because they would come up and like, what was our chart? They're like, okay, put your
Yeah,
this
I guess
this
because
line
they're
is for saxophone. This one is for flute.
I guess just because wherever your hands have to be positioned on the sax, you have to be able to reach. But I didn't know at the time that my hands are actually like they're as big as my head. My hands are huge and my fingers are very long. So I could have played the saxophone, but I just got scared to be like, can I do it? So I just picked the flute because anybody was allowed to do that one.
Oh, you didn't
And
have you didn't have a hand tryout for the flute.
yeah, a little scared for that one. And then I dropped out of band because you know you're playing classical music and like nothing against classical music, but I reading the chart music got really hard for me at one point, and I was just like, you know, I like singing and I want to make music. I don't know how I'm going to do that. Keep in mind at this point, I'm like 11, 12. Then
Mhm.
I get to junior high, and we have this thing called rotations. That got cut from the program now. They stopped funding it, but I was lucky enough to be a part of that when I was in junior high. And in your rotations each semester, you would do cooking, art, or music or there's one other one, but anyway,
Mhm.
there's a guitar one and that you learn how to play guitar in the music rotation. So every Friday or whatever for 30 minutes you go and the teacher will teach you how to play guitar. And that's kind of where I was like, I really love guitar. I want a guitar. And because I was learning it in school, I remember going home and I told my parents, I was like, I really want a guitar because this is something I can teach myself to play because I'm learning it in school. And then I kept learning at home. So that year I got my first guitar for my birthday.
Wow.
And yeah, so since then, you know, I've just been playing. And the teacher, it was my seventh grade homeroom teacher, but he also taught the eighth grade rotations for guitar. Every year I still reach out to him and I just send him a huge thank you letter because without that, I don't think that, you know, I would be where I am now with music. He really, everybody kind of hated that teacher, but because he was strict, but I just thought he was the coolest thing ever. And learning guitar at school, it just in a class
Mhm.
was so fun. And I
That's
don't think I
so
would have taught guitar if I wasn't learning it in school. So
that's so special. I'm sure he's stoked when he gets those letters. Like,
yeah, yeah, the emails
what a
back.
reward.
Yeah, he was pretty amazing. I mean, that was a big introduction into actual music, of writing songs, learning chords, and kind of, you know, turning the poems that I used to write into songs, and then going from there. You know, I never used to like perform in the talent shows in like elementary school or junior high, but then I moved to a new school for high school, so I was like, nobody knows who I really am here, like what
Mm-hmm.
I can do. And
Clean slate,
yeah, so
so to
even my
speak.
they didn't know that I could sing. Anybody who does anything like artistic or creative or whatever in the family, I mean, we don't really talk about it. So I have older brothers. One went in the musical for Phantom of the Opera or something, had some crazy dance solo, and we didn't know he could dance. He's just like, come to the musical. And we came, and then he just and we're like, what? Like, this is so cool. So then when it was my turn, I did they had this thing called Lock Stock that they model after Woodstock. And I just went to the tryouts. I was like, I don't know, like nobody knows what I can do or if I'm good. So I went to the tryout and then I sang. They were like, what the heck? Like, you're amazing. I was like, all right, cool. They're like, you're in. And I was like, all right, great. So I go home, and then the night of the talent show, I remember just telling my parents, like, you guys should come. And then they came. They didn't ask what my talent was or anything.
They're
And
like, oh, you're in a talent show? I'm just gonna show
yeah.
up.
So then I performed and I sang in front of, you know, however many people were there. It's like a packed, we had a cafetorium. So it was like, that was our cafeteria, and there was a stage in there for when there'd be performances or whatever. So
Okay.
yeah, so it was in there, and that was my first live performance where, you know, everybody found out that I could sing and play guitar. And from that, I was scared. I was like, what if I mess up? Are they
Uh-huh.
gonna laugh at me? There's a video on YouTube. Because I sang Jolene by Dolly Parton.
I was
What an
gonna ask you if you did if you did a cover original.
The first talent show I did a cover. And then the second one, they were like, please do two songs because you're just rocking. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I did like my rendition of an MGMT song, and I did an original song. So I was like, all
Cool.
right, let me just do it. And they loved it. And it was a cool moment where people realized that I could sing, but nobody knew. I wasn't like the theater girl going into the classroom being like, oh yeah, like I can sing. It was just kind of like a little hidden thing that people found out that they knew I love music, but then they're like, oh, you're talented. I was like,
Yeah, and you can write songs too. That must have been another huge one that people didn't
yeah.
know.
I mean, I always wrote a lot of poetry. English was my best subject in school. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of, obviously, I'm like a teenager, sad, depressed, all these things. I'm always writing things down, writing poems or whatever. Then when the music thing came into it, I was like, oh, these poems can just be songs when you find a way to turn them into something. So it kind of just, I flipped that and then started writing songs.
Okay. And after these talent shows, what like how did you get to Los Angeles? I mean, how did you start a career in this?
Um, this is it's such a crazy story. So when I was 17, I moved out of my house. I like ran away from home in the middle of the night. And then I was living with my boyfriend at the time. That relationship was big, garbage, doo doo, worst thing ever, bad choice. Anyway,
But
so
you
I
don't
was
know
living
at
in
17, right?
I mean, I was 17, he was 21. Weird time, weird time. I was still in high school, like trying to graduate. I had to switch schools and everything. It was a big mess. But
Oh my.
during that time, I was so sad because, you know, at my home life, everything was just going bad. And then I wrote this song one day, literally right before I had to go to my shift at work at the coffee shop called Tim Hortons. 15 minutes, I just sat down and I just sat with my guitar and I wrote this song called Start Over, and I recorded it on a voice note, and I sent it to my brother Trevor, and he was like, this is like really good, you need to get out here. And at that time they were just moving from New York to LA, so they were doing that move, and they're like, when we get there, just come out, we'll fly you out, come stay with us and just hang out, and we'll, you know, I'll get you and with some people, you gotta just record this song. So that's kind of how I got to LA from there. It was a couple times back and forth before I ended up out here, because like the way I ended up moving here was a total fluke. Like I was still dating the boyfriend that I had at that time, and I went back home, then came back, and then the second time I came back out here, we broke up, and I was like, shit, like I don't have anywhere to live if I go back there. I had nothing. And I
Mhm.
told my brother, he was like, we'll figure it out. Like, just stay here. And then that's kind of, we got on the phone with the immigration lawyers and started figuring out, the visa and like what it would take to stay here. So we did figure it out. And
Mhm.
that's how I ended up here. And
Wow.
yeah.
Well, wow. So even when you went back, I figured, I didn't know if like when you went back, if like your parents let you back in or whatever, but it sounds like you just,
Yeah. I
your
mean,
brother really kind of said, all right,
yeah.
well, I'll just scoop you up. Let's get
Yeah.
out of that relationship and let's do this.
Yeah. It was really, really amazing. I mean, I moved out because like I was molested by my dad for 10 years. And that's kind of, I was like, all right, can't do this anymore. Got to move
Oh
out.
my gosh.
So that's how all of that happened, and like it's just a really crazy story. And people are like, "Oh my god, like how are you doing this?" Because I don't want to have a bad life, so I just have to like keep pushing. So it's like I have a good life, even though all that stuff happened to me. Like it happened for a reason, and if it didn't happen, I wouldn't have the things that I have to write songs about now. So
Wow. I am
anyway, just
so
grateful.
sorry.
It's whatever.
Oh
My
my
life is
gosh.
way better now. But thanks.
Yeah. Wow. Way to, yeah. I mean, at least, geez, you're able to turn it around and you're doing awesome things and
Yeah.
you have some awesome songs out. Oh my goodness. Okay. So you get to LA with your brother and you had that one song and did you record it in like a studio? Like, and he was in, snowboarding and music and he must have known some people obviously in
Yeah.
the industry to
Yeah.
kind of get you in. Like, tell me about that part.
Yeah, he's very immersed in the art scene, and so is my sister-in-law. So, I mean, from my brother's time living in New York, they were over there for the better part of 10 years, and then they moved to LA. So, doing everything like, people. And Trevor had introduced me to one of his friends. He goes by Yeti. He's now like Doja's right-hand man, producing a bunch of
Wow.
records for her. But the first person I ever recorded with was Yeti in his studio, and that we went and we recorded the song "Start Over." It never actually came out,
Mhm.
but we went, and it was a really special time. It was my brother, Yeti, and I the whole night, and we were in there till like 2 a.m. just trying to build up this song, and that was the first in studio experience that I had ever had. And just looking back on it, it was just a really special time because it really opened up a lot of doors from that moment where
Mhm.
I wrote the song in a bedroom in Nova Scotia before I had to go to work. Now I'm in LA in a studio recording it, a couple weeks later. um so that was how that happened. And then from there, I still love that song. We just haven't found the right person to kind of produce it and make it sound the way that it needs to.
Okay.
um, but moved from there, and then I started working with another one of his friends. He would just come over to the house and I'd play guitar, and I had all these songs, and we kind of just tracked me playing guitar, singing like 8 songs that I wrote, and those are somewhere on a drive. Hilarious to listen to. So that was kind of just like finding my sound and how I work with people
Mhm.
in a room, because usually it was just myself writing songs with the guitar voice notes. And there's some other song that I made in a studio with a friend of mine, Isaiah. It's the most like Christian poppy, like haha sounding song, and I listening to it now in comparison with like I Love Me, I Hate Me, and all these other songs where they have like this dark element to them. It's just like,
Yeah.
what were we doing when we did that? Hilarious. It's very funny.
Oh wow. Well, what year was it when you came out to record those first
Uh,
songs?
I think it was 20. I want to say the end. No, it was either 2017 or 2018 because I graduated from high school in 2017. So it would have been
Okay.
at the tail end of that year, I think.
Got it. And then when
Yeah,
did you start release? So it wasn't until 2019 when you started putting out records?
yeah. It wasn't. Obviously, I didn't want to put anything out that wasn't good. So we worked on these songs, and I was kind of like, kind of finding the way of how I was gonna put it out. So yeah, definitely it wasn't until 2019 where we made like Sleep Forever, which was this sweet record. Super amazing making that one. Yeah, that was the first song that I ever got to put out as an artist. And having I worked on that song with Ash Reisler, and I met him one night, and I went over to his house, and we just started working on it. It was like, yo, this is gonna be so perfect. And the way that the song started, it was like an alternative, like pop, like it had the guitars and like the drums and everything in it. And
Mm-hmm.
then, it sounded cool like that. That version is out. I call it the premix because it was before we remixed it to have like the Tinker box at the beginning and be this cool, like dark pop song that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like, bedroom poppy. And there was so many versions of that song, and then so many different mixes where I was like, this word just isn't sounding right. And it took a little minute to get that finished, but when it was time for it to come out, the people that we showed it to, my brother was really championing for me everywhere. He was like, check out like my sister's song, like it's crazy. So before it came out, there were people like on the inside who did know about it before. So then when my brother posted it on his Instagram, I would look through the likes to like see who liked the video
Mm-hmm.
of the song on his page. And I was like Miguel liked it. And I was like, what the heck? And then I saw Black Bear liked it. And I was like, oh my God, like little fangirl moment.
Oh,
And
totally.
yeah, so when that happened, I was just kind of like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I think like Macklemore like liked the post too, and I was just like, it's weird. Like these people watch that thing. Like I don't care if they like know who I am, but they saw it, which was just like,
Yeah, they heard your voice. I mean, that's pretty
yeah,
incredible.
it was really just like a connection to, you know, like celebrities and like famous, like they're just like people, like they're
Mm-hmm.
discovering things on Instagram the same way that we do, and they fuck with it. I was like,
Yeah, and then
amazing.
Blackberry even jumped on the record, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
So
that
talk
was
that. Tell me about that.
big dream come true. In 2019, when the first Sleep Forever came out, it came out. He found it on Trevor's Instagram because I know that Trevor did some art for Bear back and forth. So they were kind of friends, and I remember Bear saw it and he hit my brother and was like yo, like your sister's like low key flames, and I was like, he didn't say that, but he did. And
Wow.
yeah, so then uh we sent the file with the open verse over to him because he
Mhm.
was like send it over. So we had like a light chat about a possible like collaboration back in 2019, but obviously life is very busy then, and he's a super busy guy. Like he's popping off
Yeah,
all of
that's when he was really, really getting huge.
yeah. And then fast forward into to pandemic, COVID, we're all shutting down, and then we had a little time, so we brought it back up, and one day we sent the file with the open verse over, and then like an hour later he sent it back with his thing on it. I was like, all right, like we're moving, like this is happening. And I remember just I was sitting on my niece and nephews, I was sitting in their playroom on the floor like with my phone like this, and then I remember pressing play, sitting in like all these Legos on the ground and just playing it like over and over, like hearing Bear's voice on the song that was mine. Like I was just sitting there like, oh my God, this is insane. Like this is a real thing that's happening. And then
Wow.
the rest is history.
That is so cool. That is so cool. So where were you? Well, so that happened. He was able to cut the verse during COVID. Is that what you said?
Yeah,
Okay. So where
yeah.
were you before this all, like where were you right when this all happened? Like March
I
2020.
was I was in LA. I was living with my brother and my sister-in-law, my nephews and my niece. So we were just, and then it was like, oh, lockdown tomorrow. We were like, all right, shut the doors, guys. Like we're in this one. And then
Yeah. Did it affect you musically or your
yeah,
music at all or
yes.
okay.
But like basically, we were in crazy lockdown because LA was insane
Oh
during
yeah.
that. It was, we didn't go like outside. We didn't go to the grocery store anymore. We just stopped all of that. So we were just in the house for the longest time, and I have twin niece and nephew, and they just had turned 2 at the time. So
Oh,
we had
fun.
toddlers. Then I have my oldest nephew was 5. He's 7 now, so it's crazy
Okay.
the amount of time that's passed. But
Yeah, I have a
now
5-year-old, so I know all about that being
yeah, so
in quarantine. That was so it's still
yeah,
great.
school got canceled. Then it was like homeschool.
Oh
The school was
man,
still going on. Then we
Zoom
had twins.
school, what a nightmare.
Yeah, terrible. So that going on, and it's just kind of like my sister-in-law is an artist, and she was busy because she had to record, she had to work, and my brother is an artist as well, so he had to be working and doing all this. So we're all like taking turns taking care of the kids and just making sure that there's food to eat, and the house is still clean enough that we, we can move around, and
Yeah,
there's
live.
not toys all over the place. So that was like, it's like a full-time job for everybody to
Mhm.
move inward from, being able to take the kids to school and them being out of the house where we have our time where we can all work on our creative things. And, at that time I had to stop going to the studio because it's COVID, and, we got to just
Yeah.
stick within our bubble. So that really, I mean, for 6 months, like I didn't make any music at all. I think, you know, then the babies were taking naps, and when they're napping, you got to be quiet. Then they go to sleep at like 8, and then it's like 10 o'clock by the time I get upstairs. So I had this little, like, Shore sent me a package in 2019, and it had like a little USB mic in it. And I remember I'd be like upstairs with my headphones on and the little mic, and I'd be like whisper singing ideas into my computer, trying to just like record anything so that I wasn't like wasting the
Oh,
quarantine time of us, like, so I did end up making like two little songs. And Sony had sent me, they were like, see if you can like cut anything to like these demos. And I remember I like was whisper singing into this thing, and I sent it over. They were like, yo, this is fire. And I was like, cool. And then they were like, we want to put this out. And I was like, you're kidding. That song didn't come out. But I was just like, I made this upstairs, like a whispering, literally like as quiet as I can. Because everybody's asleep and the sound travels through the house like crazy. So I'm just sitting up there like, what am I doing? But I mean, somebody liked it, and that was
yeah.
cool. And, we just kept working from that point of time into now. And, I couldn't be recording and stuff. So then that's where the whole trilogy thing came in, where I was talking with the director, Andy Hines, about the visuals and stuff. So I just kind of started making a lot of mood boards and stuff because that was a quiet activity that I could do. So I would just make like Pinterest boards full of photos that fit the aesthetic of every visual that I wanted for each song and all of that. And, we were just trying to figure out how we could make the videos happen.
Mm-hmm. So did you have the songs and you knew what songs were going to fit in the trilogy prior to doing the visuals?
Yeah, basically
Okay.
that whole project, it was 5 songs at the beginning. I just went in with Wakayo, the producer, and Riley, the other writer on the songs. We went in for 5 days in November of 2019. So each day we made a song. So at
Oh,
the end,
wow.
5 songs. And I'm the type of person where if we make a song, it's going to come out, because otherwise we're wasting each other's time. So I like get hyper fixated on whatever we're doing, and I'm like, we're gonna finish this, because otherwise it's gonna go sit in a drive somewhere and have like, be like Maggie Andrew, like day 1 demo, and then we're never gonna open it again. So I was like, these are songs, we're doing this. And basically we made an EP that week, and then we kind of like cut it down into the 3 songs, and the other 2 songs didn't really, they were just like filler songs, so Honda, I Love Me, I Hate Me, and then the third part, those are the bulk of everything that we did. So I mean, I did know it was going to be a project when we were making it,
Mm-hmm.
but definitely I didn't know it was going to end up being a trilogy, but then it did, and it made sense, and very proud.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. So why don't you walk us through the first 2 pieces of it? So Honda Civic is the first one. Then I Love Me, I Hate Me. Tell me about the visual for Honda Civic in the second one.
I mean, funny story, Andy, the director, he's also from Nova Scotia, and we went back to Nova Scotia to film these videos. I
Wow. What
got
was
with
that
them
like?
like
That
at
must
the
have been kind of
tail end of
emotional.
quarantine. It was nuts because I hadn't been back there for like three years at that point.
Yeah.
So Andy reached out. Well, they were still out here. They're like, we're going back to Nova Scotia. You want to come with us? So I was like, yeah, let's go. So I moved in with them for 2 months, and then we fly back to Nova Scotia, and we're here. And Andy had the day 1 mix of Honda Civic, and I sent it to him immediately. 2019, he's like, I'm doing the visuals for these, and I was like, heck yeah, you are. So for like 2 years, we're talking about making this video. We're like, but we got to go back to Nova Scotia, because literally in the line where I go, remember when I left from Nova Scotia, like we have to go. So then we're back there and we're like, all right, we're doing this now. So, we filmed all the videos in Nova Scotia, which was, it's kind of a trip where I left there and came out to LA and I never went back. So it was really nice to like be in my hometown filming
Mm-hmm.
videos, that's where I came from. And, you know, everybody on the crew is from Nova Scotia, and it's just like such a good vibe making that. So Honda, you know, insane. Probably my favorite video of the whole thing. It's actually not I Love Me, I Hate Me is my favorite, but Honda, just the premise, like that was the video, like that was what set the whole thing off. So, you know, we're in I forget the place where it's called where we're filming, but we're in this little small town, like with this Honda, this red Honda Civic, you know, driving down this dirt road. Andy's in the back, like crunched up like an accordion, just going, whip it, drive faster. So I'm like on this road, like crazy. Like he's like, slow down. Like I was going too fast. I was like, you know, we waited 2 years for this. I'm going fast.
Sure.
So, I got to do a little bit of my own like stunt driving for that, which was really amazing. And obviously Honda's there's a lot of emotions in that video. So on the day with the scenes with the boyfriend where he's yelling at me and we're in this room, you know, there's like the cocaine on the table, all the alcohol bottles. People had to leave the set because they were getting really like affected by what was happening in
Triggered.
that room. Yeah, it was just like reliving trauma, but in a controlled environment. So, you know, there were points in time where Dave, the actor who played my boyfriend in the video, you know, he'd be yelling at me and like the vein is popping out of his forehead. Like he's like in this role. And I'm like, oh my God. And we had to just like take a break because I was like, this is very freeing, like being able to relive this and choose my own ending, you know, where like I'm not like this and I can walk away. And filming that video was it was like closure for that time, because I just got to, the magic of film is you don't have to relive your life exactly to a point. You know, you get to take the car and go crash your boyfriend's car and roll it into a ditch because, you know, whatever, take back whatever's yours. And so that was a really amazing video. I mean, it was really a huge part of my story and
probably therapeutic, I would assume.
Yeah, very much. Yeah.
Wow.
That part was really important. You know, it wasn't glamorous at all. It was it was just very real. You know, there was no like huge costumes or like crazy makeup. It was all very day to day. This is what I look like at that point in time. This is what I was going through. And, you know, this is me just leaving it behind. And then we move into I Love Me, I Hate Me, which is a little more glamorous and fun.
It's the story continues at the pizza shop.
Yeah, so the pizza shop was, you know, we weren't able to do the coffee shop because we had to get like all these showcases and stuff, and we didn't have enough time to get that. So they rented out this location that actually was a restaurant, which was super cool. It was like super like old like vibes in there. So we're in there, you know, I've never folded a pizza box in my life. So they're like, they're literally like, for this shot, you know, you're going to be folding the boxes. And I was like, wait, but like, I actually don't know how to do this because it was never my job. So,
right.
They're like, no, just like try it for the first time on camera because it'll look real if you literally don't know how. So I'm sitting there like folding these boxes, trying to figure it out and you know, just stacking the boxes up. And the woman who was playing my manager, she was scary. Like I told her to her face, I was like, you're like literally like a scary manager. You have manager eyes. I'm afraid of you.
You're like, I would not work for you.
Yeah, exactly. It was actually very nice. But anyway, you know, that part is I used to work at the coffee shop. You know, I hated that job, dead end job. I didn't see myself working there for a long time. Any regular job I've had, I was good at it. I just knew that, you know, I'm not going to be in a uniform for the rest of my life, pouring coffee in a cup for people. That's not for me. So I had to quit a few of those jobs. And in that video, you know, I got to quit the way that I would have if that was appropriate in the workplace. So she told me, she's like, you can't hear the audio, but it's so funny. She comes up, she's like, if you're going to fold the pizza boxes like that, you know, you just can't work here. And like telling me all this crazy stuff. It's just bad. Your attitude's terrible. You can't be sitting on the stairs. And I'm like, I just want to cry because I'm actually feel like I'm bad at this job. So I get to take these pizza boxes. Andy's behind the camera just going, just throw them. So I'm just throwing the boxes all over the place. One actually happened to hit her in the face by accident.
Whoops.
It's bad. We had a cooler full of drinks. So Andy said, He says, go over there and just grab a bunch of drinks out of the fridge, tell her that you're taking them with you. So I'm just grabbing cream sodas and iced teas and just walking away. And we filmed that a few times. So I just got to drink like 5 cream sodas at 10 in the morning, like a crazy person. So I get to quit my job the way that I would have in my head, when you explain,
Mhm.
you're like, yeah, quit that job. That's what
Right.
people think. So I got to do that, and that was also a very fun thing. It just goes to the storyline of that was my life in Nova Scotia. I was working at this job, and then when I wasn't working, I'd be the scenes in the bedroom with me playing the guitar and writing the song. That's what I would be doing in my free time, was writing
Mhm.
songs, playing guitar, kind of trying to figure out, imagining myself in the life that it flips back and forth between, hopping out of the car with my security, walking into a building after a show with this big fur coat on, like hair done, nails done, everything just insane. Paparazzi over there, all these cars, and just, imagining that type of life. And still with the lyrics, having those feelings of like anxiety and like, why am I here? Those kind of follow you no matter where you go. So it's moving from me being in my room writing those songs about those feelings. And that's kind of where those songs are taking me. And
Mhm.
no matter where, like, you're always like, where I came from, that's always going to be where I came from. The things that happened to me, they're always going to be a part of my story. So no matter how much success, how much money, how much fame you have, that's still part of you, and nothing will matter if you don't fuel your joy with something that you love doing. So whatever that is, if it's cooking, playing guitar just for fun, just not being about work all the time. So in my old life, my life was work all the time because I had to go to work to make money, to pay the car insurance, pay rent, get groceries, do whatever. And I was miserable. So kind of, I took the risk, starving artist, that's a very real thing. I quit those jobs. I had no money for the longest time, but I was making music and that was making me happy. And that's kind of where that song like was very inspired by the day that we wrote that, I'd go in and tell a story and explain the feelings that I was feeling. Every night, Kyle, the producer, he'd be like, go home and just write. And in the morning before you come here, just write something down. So I write in a journal anyway. So I'd come in and I'd share my journal entry, and then we'd be like, all right, like you wrote down, like, I love me, but I hate myself sometimes. Let's run off that. And that's kind of where that song came from. And then obviously we're like, I am a bad bitch, and like I'm all these things, like I am a powerful person. So we moved into that for the second verse where we're like, let's not be so like negative self-talk, because
Yeah, like
kind of about that.
self-deprecating.
Yeah, it's very, you can feel those things, but your feelings always, they're telling you something. So like
Mhm.
if I'm angry, usually I just let my anger like make me like, I'll go and write it down for a long time, and then there's something in there that I can write a song about. So I just let my feelings be motivation and motivate me to do more, because obviously I don't want to be an angry person or a sad person, but you can't help but feel that way sometimes. So just kind of like let my feelings push me into something better. And that's what they did when we were making those songs. So very
That's
grateful for that.
Yeah, that's really inspiring. I mean, to take all of that. I mean, really, to take all of that and really, you know,
Yeah.
be able to flip it and create your own ending now for some
Yeah.
of these traumatic situations you were in.
I mean,
And
you
this,
just have to be honest with yourself. Like that's all that it is. It's very like it's really hard to be honest with yourself, because for a long time I was, and I was, oh, that happened. Like I don't care. Like it doesn't affect me. Whatever. But then when you sit with yourself for a long time, and you're by yourself, you think about those things a lot. Those are the things that you think about when you're alone and you're in bed at night and you're just staring at the ceiling. Like you're thinking about those things. So it took me a while, you know, I was in high school for a long time. You're around your friends most of that time. You're at work, you're around people. So you don't have a lot of that time. But then moved away, and then I just had a lot of time to think about those things and really reflect on what had happened to me in my life. And I just sat with it for a little while and was like, those things are a part of who I am, but they aren't what I am. And
Mhm.
I get to pick how I talk about those things with people, and if I want to talk about them at all.
Mhm.
So I kind of just went through these feelings of, it's hard to talk about, but someone needs to. So I just kind of, sacked up and was like, all right, I'm ready. Like, let's go all in. And because I can't hold it in anymore. Because if you do, you know, you just build up and then you just like have a meltdown. So I was like, let's just get it out and let's do something positive with it and make music and write about it and talk about it and just be open. Because if I had had somebody back then who was like, you know, telling me, you know, this relationship really sucks for you and you should leave. Like, how can I help
Mhm.
you? If I had that, you know, I wouldn't have been there for that long. Or if I had had someone that I felt okay with to like go and talk to about my dad, you know, who was like, it's okay to talk about those things because you can free yourself by doing that, you know, whenever it's time for you to do that, I'm here. So I didn't really have that back then. So if I had that now, or if I can be that person for someone now, it's kind of like, why not talk about it? Because, you know, don't lie to yourself. You just have to be honest. It's hard, but it's totally worth it. And it's really important.
Mhm. You're doing amazing things, and the songs that you've been writing are incredible. And thank you for being so vulnerable and telling this story. I mean, a lot.
I mean, it's
That
hard to
means a
not.
lot. I mean, wow.
I mean, it's a story. Like, you can't not tell this. You can't put those videos out and people be like, what's that about? I'm like, I don't know. You gotta just tell the story. That was a big part of the trilogy where it was like, you know, we're gonna make this. People are gonna ask questions. What
Mhm.
are we gonna say? And I'm like, we're gonna say everything. You know, it's a big story, but whatever people want to know, you know, it's there to talk about. And it's like it's a taboo subject, but somebody has to talk about it, and it
Right.
should be talked about more anyway. Just because, you know, everybody's feeling feelings all the time.
Yeah, and relatable to a lot of people. I can
Yeah,
imagine.
yeah.
So, thank you for sharing that. Wow.
Thank you for
Uh,
letting me share it.
no, of course. And so obviously there's one more video coming and another
Yes,
song, which is
yes,
exciting to see how the
yeah.
saga wraps up, the trilogy wraps up. We're all pretty excited for that. And again, thank you so much for doing this. Do you have any? I mean, now stuff's opening up around LA and across the country. Like, do you have any plans for playing some shows or doing anything like that? Like, what do you
Not
have coming up aside from the
I
third
mean,
piece of the story?
I got new music like
I
coming
love it.
very soon. Like, I have a ton of new music ready to go. I mean, once trilogy wraps up, I'm very excited to see what happens with the third part. So I'm kind of like stoked to just see the whole project as a whole and see
Of
everyone's
course.
reaction to it. From that, I mean, I don't have any plans to do any shows right now. I mean, stuff's still kind of opening up. I'm
Right.
still trying to figure out what's up with life.
Sure.
Like the other day, I went to Target, and you know, you see people not wearing masks anymore. It's just like, wow, like this is like gonna be a normal thing again, where we're vaccinated and we can do whatever we want.
It's weird.
And yeah, and then I went to the beach and I walked around the pier the other day, and there's just so many people there. And usually, like, I love being around people, but just though that was the most people I've been around for over a year and a half. So I was just walking, and I was like looking at everything, just kind of like I had anxiety for a minute. I was like, what's going on? There's just so many people here. So, you know, slightly easing back into being around so many people, and I mean, it's mostly just like feeling safe about
Mhm.
where you are and everything. So I mean, I would
Yeah.
love to be doing some shows, so definitely that will be happening. But
Well,
you
can't
know,
wait. And thank you so much, Maggie, for doing this. I really, really appreciate it.
thank you so much for having me. This
I
was great.
have, yeah, I have one more question for you before I let you go. If you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Right. Just write all the time. I mean, 2019 was the year that everything changed for me. You just have to, I have journals full of my feelings. You know, if I was feeling sad, I just write it down. But at the end, I'd always put like, I still belong here. Like, I deserve this. Good things are happening for me. And the way I got into everything that's happening now, I really do believe that it was because I just wrote about it so much that my mind just got really focused on it, and I focused in on what I wanted. You know, I spent a lot of time meditating and manifesting what I wanted. I'd write down everything, and then it kind of all started to happen because I wanted it so bad for myself. And, you know, just if I couldn't actively do something, I was like somehow putting something into the universe that brought it to me. So definitely just write and write a lot. Nothing has to be happy. Just write about your feelings and just write how you feel, because, you know, somebody else is no one feels happy all the time, or, you know, there's somebody out there who can relate to how you're feeling right now. So definitely just write a lot and be honest with yourself, because being genuine and real is very important, I think, in the entertainment space, you know? So that's what helped me. So hopefully that will help somebody else.
Bringing it backwards.